Hello. Hi, everyone. I wanted to come in gently, not scare everyone's eardrums. How's it going? If you can hear the sound of my voice, please come on over to the Dealer Excellence stage. Grab a seat because we have a very special presentation on AI. And AI is changing every industry, including ours. So what does that mean for motorcycling and power sports? Jared Burt, CEO and founder of Hero Hub, is about to tell you exactly that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to AI, Analog, and Adventure, leading a generational shift of riders. Jared, can you pop up on this beautiful stage? Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Jared.
That was such a nice introduction. Hey, thanks for shuffling in. I know it's nap time, but we're bringing Alexander Smith and Ashmore Ellis, and those that are able to come over are going to be delighted to hear that discussion. And it's being recorded, so others will be able to watch it later, but live and in person, you're going to get the full experience. I'd like to start out by just mentioning yesterday, when we met, we talked more about the tactical applications and where AI is showing up in dealerships today. Now, today, we're going to zoom out a little bit and talk about a generational shift that could be in front of us, and how can we as dealers and as an industry adapt, and what should we lean in on? What should we invest in? What should we pay attention to change? Because we probably should adapt. We probably should do something different than what we did yesterday in order to take advantage of a shift, a technological revolution that we may be in the middle of. And one of the things that AI is going to improve is clickers. Clickers are going to be great again with AI, but not this one. So we might have to have someone manually click Okay, the clicker is not clicking. Okay, so when I go when I jump, we'll change. Oh, we're going to try it now? Oh, now it works. Okay, thank you. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the moment we're in, and I want to rewind a little bit to the Industrial Revolution. I grew up in a family farm equipment dealership, and we had high horsepower tractors and combines that revolutionized farming. Before that, we were with horses, oxen, and carts that we were pulling behind. The Industrial Revolution had a massive impact on humanity. And one of the big changes that we saw with the Industrial Revolution was a change in the discretionary time and money that people had to do things. There was a change where instead of using muscle, we were able to rely more on machines. And we may be involved in a technological shift that's actually moving much faster than the Industrial Revolution. Instead of replacing muscle, though, we have the potential to replace cognition. One of the things that I just found out about it recently, there was a university in my hometown that was talking about one application of AI being you can get an AI boyfriend or an AI girlfriend. And this really concerned me, for I have 3 grandchildren, and I want my grandson to experience holding a girl's hand for the first time. And AI ain't gonna replace that ever, right? But AI does have a lot of power to replace cognition. We see advances in AI that are sometimes almost scary. And what do we do with that? So I want to talk about the Industrial Revolution, moving back a little bit. The machines that were created a lot of prosperity. And the reason I want to focus on this is because this shift could create tremendous opportunity for us in our industry, in the power sports industry. There was a lot of scale. Because of the Industrial Revolution, we have motorcycles, we have snowmobiles and side-by-sides. That's what makes that all possible. And what happened is when the costs of doing things dropped, the cost of farming 500 acres became the same cost to farm 5,000 acres of land. And as that cost drops, the prosperity rises. And so entire industries are transformed and were transformed and even created because of the Industrial Revolution. So what does that mean now? Why could that be similar with AI? And what we need to think about is we're in a generation, and every generation normalizes the miracle that it inherits. And this could be our big shift. This could be our miracle. So I want to talk a little bit about the comfort that we've inherited. I remember even just as a child going in at 5 in the morning to my family's dealership, and one of my jobs was to clean out the tractors that came in for service. And sometimes I had to use a shovel to clean out the tractors to get all the stuff out of the cab. And I remember thinking, even as a young boy, man, I wish I had a robot that could just take care of this, because I'd rather go up to the counter and sell parts to customers. It's a lot cleaner to look at the little microfilm and find the little parts on the screen and go get them off the shelf and sell them to the farmer. That was a lot funner. But now we've got a tremendous shift in comfort where my children that are still at home don't even have to vacuum very much, because we have a little robot running around vacuuming up. How many of you have a robot vacuuming your carpet every day? Almost everyone has one. So our grandparents had machines for farming. They were able to experience electricity, and it made a huge transformation. Then our parents, my mom, I remember her telling me when she got their microwave when she was a girl, household appliances, automobiles. She drove around a little convertible Mustang here on the California coast where she grew up. But our generation has so much more. My grandchildren can use iPads. My teenage son, I can track his location wherever he is. Sometimes I don't want to know that, so I turn it off, even though he has it on. But automation is now becoming a reality. And so our generation has tremendous comfort ahead of it. I want to fast forward to what that means for us today, and then looking forward. Today, there's some markets. Anyone live in a market where you can take a driverless Uber car? You can now get a ride without it. Yeah, so we can get a ride in an Uber. There's no driver. It's just us. You can pick the radio channel, and that's already in major U.S. cities. AI is handling so many administrative tasks. Graphic designers, engineers, architects, their roles are changing to more of a verification role, where they're verifying the work that a machine is doing for them. Autonomous systems are now scaling rapidly. It's not that we check in every month. It's like every couple days, it seems like there's a new advancement in this technology. So this is going much faster. So what comes next? In a dealership and in our industry, we can look forward to hopefully much more productivity, and I would say also efficiency. But with that, there's going to be more choices. So one of the things that we need to consider is the possibility of, what am I going to do if I have a lot more time on my hands? If I have robots vacuuming my house, and then other AI performing jobs that it used to take me hours to do, what am I going to do with my discretionary time? What am I going to do with my discretionary money? And that's where I believe our industry has a solution for that, where humans can thrive by getting out and having fun on a motorcycle. And this could present a tremendous opportunity for the industry and for dealerships. One of the books of the month for Dealer Hero 20 groups was The Comfort Crisis. Imagine a group of dealers that are in a book club, and every month they're going to read a book. They don't read maybe 12 books a year, but we give them to them. But The Comfort Crisis was one of those books, and every year he recommends, let's have a Misagi. And a Misagi is a Japanese ritual where once a year I go and perform something, some adventure. I go on some adventure that stretches me to the point that I only have a 50% chance of actually achieving it. Only a 50% chance of getting this done. This inspired me to climb the Grand Teton. And, I did fear for my life at times as I was hanging off granite cliffs. But going through that does something to you mentally. And I think mentally and emotionally, we can build resilient generations through power sports and the adventures that we can do. So I have invited Ashmore and Alexander, and I'll have you guys make your way over. But we're going to talk about what they've been doing to wire humans for this challenge. So come on up on stage. Will everyone welcome Ashmore and Alexander? That's a pretty big applause for how small the audience is, because it is nap time. But we're going to talk about how, writing is an analog experience, and we won't bring analog up anymore because that's not like a common word. But writing, it's just different. What is it about riding a motorcycle that makes it unique to like going on an Uber ride without a driver?
All right. I think we've all experienced probably this whole entire building that it's one of the few things you can do that you use every single sense that you have, all 8 of them. And it's something that's it can be unpredictable, especially if you're riding off-road. I mean, the trails are constantly changing, the weather does things to these trails, and all of a sudden it'd be easy one day and it's the hardest thing you've done the next day, and it's the same exact trail. So it's the art of surprise. It's a constant visual feeling. It's the experience from it all. It's just a constant, it's almost like you're getting assaulted by your senses, that's what it is.
You never know what's next. There's kind of a surprise, the weather, the elements that you're all exposed to. Alexander?
I think for me, it's the complete disconnection from everything else. I don't want a radio in my helmet. I don't want my cell phone on the bars or anything like that. I just want to be completely disconnected from everything and have this singular focus. I'm riding my motorcycle, and if you're with your buddies, you're trying to ride your motorcycle faster than all your buddies are, and that's all you want to focus on, just this one physical thing.
Yeah, I've heard about being in a flow state, and it feels like that when those distractions are removed, that's a great way to get in your flow state. I'd like to do a proper introduction, but I don't even know if I need to do an introduction, because it took these guys 45 minutes to walk from the entrance to here, like we're signing autographs. And I went and tried, and I walked back, and it took me 2.5 minutes to get back here after I went to the men's. But we're going to be talking about, I have on the screen identity, meaning, and shared experiences. And you recently came and talked to our 20 group dealers and talked about some of these topics and how much, what is the core purpose of what dealerships in this industry can do for people. And there is so much depth in terms of meaning and the way that it can change people's lives. So I want to talk about that. But first, I want to do a quick introduction. For those of you that don't know Ashmore Ellis, she is the founder and co-owner of Babes Ride Out and Babes in the Dirt. And one of kind of the signature rides that I think is exciting to talk about, I think you're going to do like 30 or something ride adventures this year, but Iceland is one of those. I mean, from California to Iceland and all over the world, Africa. So I'll have her talk a little bit more about those. And then Alexander Smith, owner and operator of a Southern California dealership. I was there recently in December, and one of the things that stuck out to me was just the tenure of the employees and their dedication and loyalty to taking care of the customers that were coming in. Also, Malcolm Smith Adventures, and we'll talk about some of the things that you do there. Maybe Alexander, I noticed when I got on the website that the No Wimps ride is sold out. And one of the things that you said is if a grown man doesn't cry during the ride, then it was a failure. Is that right?
Yeah, or the other thing we like to say is if everything goes to plan, you'll quit at least once. So that's our goal. When I set this ride up, my goal was I never want a client to finish this challenge and this ride. If I have a client finish, I'm going to be disappointed. So every year that works out. So.
Well, and that goes kind of with that, I guess, Misagi experience. How does this impact people? Like, why do Why do folks want to go and put themselves through that punishment? Because it's fail. Don't they see it as failure if they don't finish?
I think it could easily be seen as failure. I think there's a strong desire for people to go out and find that limit, mentally and physically, because it's not just a physical challenge, it's a mental challenge. The navigation that we throw at these guys it's tricky. It's really complex. It requires some pretty high level decision making, and then on top of that, you're fatigued. It's 6 days long. You're doing 150 miles a day of really gnarly, like hard enduro style riding. The kind of person that wants to go do that is a special kind of idiot, right? Not unlike myself. And they want that really hard challenge. And I don't think they see it when they get to the very end and they say, no, I can't take any more of this. I'm done for the day. I don't think they see it as a failure. I think it's more of I found the limit and now I know.
It feels like it even stretches limit, like it's character building. When I've seen, like, one of the things I try to instill is you can do hard things, my children. And it feels like there's a lot of character building experiences that come out of that. Ashmore, you're bringing groups of women from all backgrounds together to get together with one common purpose in mind, and that's just go ride a motorcycle. What kind of things do those experiences create? Maybe tell us a little bit about your Iceland experience that's coming up. I know you've got many, but that one's so unique.
Our Iceland trip's pretty popular. We go out there, we do 6 days of riding straight. It's not the most technical terrain, but it's the worst weather you can imagine for most of it. It's just, the wind's crazy, it's cold, it's wet. You have to have not just a physical ability to ride about 100 miles in crappy weather, river crossings, but you have to have positive mental attitude even when you don't want to, you can't break. And, we always tell the gals, it's all about your attitude. We'll wait, we'll do whatever it takes to get you to the finish line each day, but you've got to stay positive. You have to get on that bike and you have to keep going. And we had this one gal that came, she just started riding a street bike maybe 5 years before, and she'd never sat on a dirt bike, and she signed up for the trip. And I have a form they fill out that really says, this is not for you, it's not for novice, it's just mental. And I called her right away. I'm like, I think you made maybe a mistake. I was like, are you sure you want to do this? She's like, I have a year to plan. And who am I to say she can't do that? I'm like, hell yes, you can do that. And she's like, well, what should I do? I'm like, all right, look, training classes. And then this is, I told her about some stuff I did out in Arizona with Destry. And I was like, it really helped me. Like, you changed my form, and I was on a podium 2 months later winning my first desert race. And I was so stoked on that. I was like, is that kind of consistent? You find a trainer, you put the work in, you can do this. And she showed up on that trip, and it was her first time out of country. And I was like, what? I found that out when we landed. I'm like, it's your first time leaving America? Wow, what an honor too for her to go with us and let us, take her on this trip. She finished every single day with tears in her eye. Half the tears because she was challenged, half the tears because she made it. And we were so proud of her, and we still talk to this day about her. Like, how magical was that? So it attracts people like that. It attracts people to do all sorts of races and stuff. And it's just, you're out there for the challenge, sure, but it's the sheer beauty of Iceland, because you're going to places where tour vehicles can't go. There's nobody out there. You're in the middle of the waterfalls, and just, it's all volcanic. So everything, the water is shooting out every crevasse, and you're literally riding beside glaciers. You're hearing them crack through your helmet, and you're feeling it. You can touch it. And having that experience on a motorcycle will just completely change your DNA, and that's what we want to do. These are the stories that you think about when you're, in your 90s, and you're like, oh, my body is broken. But how amazing that it was broken and worth it, because you did stuff like that. You challenged yourself, you did it, and you can tell people about it. So, and I mean, how amazing to accomplish as a new rider. I couldn't believe it. Unreal.
Well, and you mentioned something changes in your DNA when you go through something like that. I imagine that little stresses of life maybe don't bother her as much, because she's like, well, I rode my motorcycle to glaciers in Iceland. I can deal with this little problem. Malcolm, do you see, or I'm so sorry, you look
at
like
least
your
once a day.
dad.
At least once a day.
Oh, Alexander's father was in my 20 group, and I have really dear memories, and it's great to have you. And you're handsome just like Dad. So good to have you here. Maybe build on that. I mean, you see some of those same things coming out of that, and this is something that at a dealership, because you also have the dealership side, and you see the transaction happen, you make the experience go as good as you can, and they leave. But you see the other side of that, the other side of the purchase and the customer that's out riding, having that experience. How does this change people?
Yeah, I think Ashmore hit the nail on the head when she said it's all about the attitude, because it's true. We see that on our trips too. We can have somebody come on the trip that maybe has no business being there, and if they have a good attitude, they're going to get to the end. And they might not finish every mile of every day, but they're going to get to the end of it, and they're going to have a life-changing experience on this motorcycle. That somebody that might be a far better rider than them comes on the ride with a less positive attitude and has a lot worse experience because the attitude's just not there. And I think you hit the nail completely on the head there.
I want to shift the discussion a little bit now and talk about this technological, potentially revolution that we're in the middle of. We talk about automation and AI. What concerns you? What scares you about that? And then maybe also a discussion about what gets you excited about that. Ashmore, what concerns you about this AI and a more autonomous world?
Yes, I think when we spoke about it last week a little bit, it was the fear of being perfect and not being able to make mistakes, and not learning from your mistakes, applying those learning lessons. If you have the answers always readily available to you and not work through the process of figuring things out for yourself, that's tough. And to just trust and be so complacent is also tough. I mean, there's stories about people that have hiked things like, the Tetons, or just other story about someone hiking up in somewhere in France, and they were a bunch of tourists that came over. They were so complacent. They just trusted the guide. They didn't do any of their own research. They didn't fact check or anything. It didn't end well. And it was just, to be so stagnant, that's what scares me. And just trust the process, trust the machine. That's a little bit unnerving for me. Terrifying.
What makes you nervous about this,
Alexander? Yeah, I'm much more positive about this than Ashmore is. I'm not so doom and gloom scary.
Yeah. I think Ashmore and I have been watching some sci-fi movies, and we're a little freaked out. Help us stay grounded. We don't. The world's not over.
I think it's really gonna free the productive people to be more productive, and for us to think about the higher level problems that we have, and really free us from that daily stuff that we all have in our lives, we all have at work. It's just like, oh man, I gotta reformat this spreadsheet, or I gotta consolidate these reports, or whatever that is, right? We've all been there, and we all dread that kind of work. And I really think that's where we can point AI at and say, fix these problems for me, free me from this kind of monotony, and let me go do the stuff that matters, the personal relationship building with clients, or the like I said, the high level problem solving that can take the business further. So I'm very positive about AI's impact on my business, both businesses, and on the industry.
It's interesting, like where does it do well, and where could it not help us? And I love that you talk about kind of those easier, monotonous tasks, that if it could take some of that off, then I can do more of the meaningful work. What's the meaningful work that you'd worry about turning over to AI or automation?
I'm not sure I would turn over any meaningful work, anything that has to do with human connection, or I'm really anti chatbot. Like, I hate it. I don't think there's anybody in here that's talked to a chatbot and been like, oh yeah, that was a really positive experience, right? It's all just irritating and not good. We want to talk to humans. I think that's a very human thing, that when we call somewhere, or when we send an email, we want to talk to humans. So I think that's a hard stop, is that we don't, at least in our business, we never automate that stuff. We never automate the human touch points. We automate the crap out of everything else, all the stuff that'll free us to do more of that. Like we talked about, the admin stuff.
Yeah, so you're saying, and this is something that could be controversial because chatbots are a big thing. A lot of businesses are adopting even AI conversations where you can call and get information or set an appointment to get your haircut just with some AI bot. But you would say, at least for your dealership and the experiences you're providing, stay clear away from that.
Yeah, I think it's an AI chatbot talking to a client is antithetical to our business model and our 5 basics. It's completely against what we do.
Ashmore, what's your take? I've heard, I heard about these AI boyfriends and girlfriends that some of the younger generation is having. I haven't really looked into it for sure, but where would you say it would be a bad use of AI and automation? What do we need to stay away from? What are the traps we need to avoid?
I totally agree, like a lot of human touch points for sure. And then getting a haircut is so different than like buying a motorcycle or becoming part of a community. So absolutely, I would want a human for that. There are some things that you just don't really feel the need to talk to a human. Maybe it is booking that haircut. Maybe it is setting an appointment for your dog groomer, things like that, where you don't want to take the time to talk to someone and then, take 5 minutes of my day to have this conversation where I just want to book the appointment and get it done. Maybe I want, or maybe it could be an oil change or something, and I go in and meet with a human, perhaps. I'm not sure on that. I work in a very, you don't like the word analog space, what I do with community and events and things like that. But I definitely think it does have its advantages, like he was saying, in certain aspects, but definitely the human touch aspect, especially with new writers coming in, they're online all the time, and they're almost trained to be online all the time. So they might reach out and they want to be online with you. That's a scary thing,
Yeah, and it feels like the reason that all your customers are coming to you is for human connection. I think we can say that about every dealership. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about this AI, because there's so many bad ways to adopt it. Sometimes we get scared of it and say, well, then all of it is bad. It could ruin customer relationships. It could mess things up. So I'm just going to stay away from it. But I think this idea, there's this idea, and recently the Indiana coach just did this major turnaround, and he said, you get better or you get worse. You never stay the same. And I think that's a powerful concept. And right now, this seems to resonate across things like, being a writer or a business owner, and both of you are business owners. How does this concept show up in your life and in your business? And what advice would you have for business owners that are here today?
As in, you're getting better or worse? I can now that I'm in my 40s, I can definitely tell that I'm going to get way worse if I don't get better, like fitness and staying on top of things, and just my vision sucks, things like that. But it's a constant evolution, not to just who you are and what, your own business, but it's a constant evolution for people. What that new generation is, they're different. Gen Z is different. Gen Alpha is different. And to be able to evolve and, pass that torch, it's so important. And it's something that I have to work on myself. We have a lot of younger people that come to our events. It's 21 up mostly, and most of the demographics around 30 years old. They're a different kind of rider than the 60-year-old. We all love motorcycles, but it's so different. To be able to go between all that and figure out what that common bond is and stick true to it, which is the motorcycle, is the experience. You got to constantly evolve, pay attention, be a part of it, have those real conversations. I'm not talking about surface level conversations. I mean like real conversations you have around a campfire, at an experience like that, being outdoors. It is one of those things where events like what we do really bring people together in an intimate way. We're there to ride motorcycles, but at the same time, like you said, it's a special type of human that even would show up to that. They're already open. They already want to have that dialogue. So how do we get that next generation into that? How do we evolve? So it is a constant conversation I have.
And that constant conversation results in constantly adapting and changing to take care of that new customer that's coming in and having these writing experiences. Alexander, from a dealership perspective, what do you feel like needs to be done to change and improve? Like, what is your perspective on that? Aren't things basically the same as they were 20 years ago, and they're going to be the same for the next 20 years?
Well, yeah, I think there's some of that. I liken it to our path to get there might change, but our finish line is always going to be in the same spot. So, like at Malcolm Smith Motorsports, we have this guiding principle. It's in every manager's office. We call it our 5 basics, and those are never going to change. But maybe our methodology to get to that goal post is going to be different as the tech changes. So I think there might be some confusion with rigidity of method and rigidity of the goal, right? And so I think we can be more flexible with our methods, but keep in mind that we always have the same goal.
Could you share an example? You've recently found some time savings in an old way, and then you leveraging AI to automate some of those mundane processes.
Yeah. So our big thing now is we're at the dealership is we're building a lot of micro applications for our managers that take their weekly or biweekly or monthly processes that they do to pull data from different sources or something like that. And we're building through AI. I mean, we don't have coders at the dealership by any means. We're using AI to do this. We're building little applications that live on their desktop, and they double click it, and it takes 2 hours worth of work and does it in 5 seconds or something like that. And it really frees them to do a whole lot more meaningful stuff and not just clicking around on their computer screen.
You could maybe have some more rides this year if you save some time.
Don't tell my wife that. I don't think she'd appreciate that. Yeah.
That's great. Let's shift now back, and I'd like to close up on a discussion about what humans can do with their time once there's more time available. So we talk about this discretionary time and money. Are humans drawn to do these hard things, or does it take someone special? And if so, or does it just take the right encouragement? Why are people drawn to do these hard things, these rides that you guys put on?
Yeah, ultimately. I think naturally humans are designed to seek comfort. I think it takes a conscious effort to say, no, I want to go do something hard. And then to your point about, what are we going to do with all this free time? I think that might be one of the core dangers of AI, is that as it starts saving us more and more time, are we really going to do the high level hard problem solving with that free time, or are we just going to scroll on our phones under our desks at work and pretend like we're working? And I think that's going to take a conscious decision that, okay, I've got all this extra free time because I built these tools that save me all this time that I used to do, and now I've got to take my job to the next level and do hard, high level thinking work, or I need to go to Baja and challenge myself on one of Alexander's rides and end up crying in the desert somewhere.
I like that better.
I definitely think you can't change unless you're challenged. Everything I've ever done, every chapter of my life has changed and flipped the page from some extreme challenges I've overcome, whether it's personal, on the bike, off the bike. And I mean, I was laughing because of this photo that you chose of me. I was 3 months pregnant. I puked right before they took that photo in a bush, and they didn't know it because I was on a motorcycle doing a motorcycle photo shoot for 805 beer. And they're like, "Oh, you must be hungover." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm super hungover." But that was a challenge. It was so cool. But that changed me. I was like, if I can survive doing a photo shoot with 805 beer, 3 months pregnant, no one knows, I'm throwing up, hell yeah to me. I am so powerful. I am so capable. I'm going to be okay, But things like that, every ride I do, if it's a more technical ride or a longer ride or just really bad weather, and you're like, how are we going to survive this? That stuff really does change you. I mean, the challenge is just, and we're built that way. We're pioneers. Humans are pioneers. We're meant to explore. We are. It's part of who we are and how we're here. And I'm such an advocate for people getting outside and doing that, especially my daughter. I'm like, send it.
So how do we, as an industry and dealers, inspire this next generation of riders? How do we inspire them to, instead of scroll or take the comfort path, do the easy things? How do we inspire them to experience these things, especially the riding opportunities in our industry? So I think that the discussions, this next generation, I think everyone probably is concerned about this next generation and how do we inspire that? You've been very successful at it, at inspiring these things. What advice do you have to inspire this next generation?
I always tell people to acknowledge them. Just acknowledge them firstly. Just acknowledge them, say their name, talk to them, get to know them, and be their champion. Treat them like they're a podium every single time they come in. Make them feel special. Oh, what have you been up to? Oh, you did that trail. It might be an easy trail for you. Maybe it's like that's so sick. That's so tough. Good for you. And and then inspire them. Show them what they can do with that. They stick to it. They become a lifelong rider. Look what you can do. Look how you can see the world. Look what you can explore. Look how you experience life. And I think with those three things, you can really inspire that next generation to come up and take on motorcycling.
So you just gave us a framework: acknowledge, inspire. I missed one. Champion, champion, and inspire. I love that. That's a framework to write down, and a great way to think about that, as opposed to I'm just selling a motorcycle. I think that would create a lifelong rider. That's great. Alexander, any other ways to build on that?
I think as the world becomes more comfortable for us humans, but by our own making, right? We're constantly making the world more comfortable for ourselves and removing friction. I think these hard experiences and things like riding a motorcycle will become more scarce and more valuable to people. And I think we just have to make sure that we're communicating that well, that this isn't the comfortable, normal life that you're used to, with all of your, comforts at home, right? This is getting out and having a real experience in the world and pushing yourself. And, whether it's the first time riding a motorcycle and that being your big challenge, or whether it's doing, the Dakar rally that's going on right now or something like that, whatever you do, get out and push yourself, because that experience is going to be very valuable in the future.
Love that. Any questions from the audience for Ashmore and Alexander? Oh, we got them. What a great. Any questions for Ashmore and Alexander? Well, I hope that you were as inspired by these two as I was today. I think that the meaning, the opportunity to enhance the lives of the people that we're working with is tremendous. And I love the idea that doing these hard things and enjoying real life can be enabled by AI, that we can take some of the mundane things and automate and leverage the technology. We have to adapt and change and implement these things, but use it as a way to have more authentic and more real experiences around us. So thank you both for being here today. It was a delightful discussion, and let's give them a round of applause. And go to their websites and sign up for a ride. Get your annual Masagi in. Is there any openings in Iceland?